What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. I am your host for this episode, Andy York. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to us each and every week, whether this is your first time or you've been with us since the beginning. We really appreciate you tuning in and joining us each and every single episode. If you haven't already gone back and watched our first two episodes of PBWF, make sure you go to bodyslam.net YouTube channel to go do that, as well as anywhere you find your podcast, you can find those episodes as well. But both me and Chris are having a great time doing that. Each and every Monday, a new episode is dropping. We're building to our first pay-per-view there as well. So we are looking forward to diving in and doing that. Obviously, if I'm hosting this weekly edition, this first edition, obviously I am doing this by myself this week. So if this is a little bit of a shorter episode, then you're welcome for that as well, because luckily there's not as much craziness to discuss as there was last week. So this is going to be very, very wrestling centered more than outside of the ring. So that's going to be wonderful. We're going to preview AEW's Forbidden Door that's coming up this Sunday, as well as breaking down some massive news in the WWE as well. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. This is going to be a little bit of a different format of a podcast than what we normally do here. And since I'm by myself, I figured this was a perfect time to kind of capitalize on that and do that as well. But before we jump into all of that, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're on a YouTube channel. If you're listening on a traditional podcasting platform, make sure you leave that rate and review. Make sure you share it with your friend. Go on over to our social media. Follow us at PBW Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy_PBWP. And let's jump into this, because we're going to start this off by actually talking about WWE first. We're going to save Forbidden Door for last. There's a lot of uproar right now in WWE. There's a lot of really good things going on. There's also some controversial things, as always. But we're going to start with the main event from Friday Night SmackDown, as the undisputed Universal Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns defended his title against Matt Riddle in a very, very, very good match. Obviously, I don't think anybody was expecting anything less out of both of those guys, but they definitely delivered on the match itself. The whole contest was great. I love the story that they were telling going into this, with Riddle kind of doing this for Randy, with Roman obviously being the massive heel that he is right now, playing foil to that. That was really great. It seems like we're still setting up Roman and Randy at some point. As soon as Randy is cleared and is healthy enough to come back, I think that's probably the first feud that we're going to go to for both of those guys. Whenever Randy is healthy, I think we're heading right there. But the big thing that everybody's talking about, nobody's really talking about the match itself, is what happened after the match. We had a Money in the Bank from last year rerun. The match was over. Roman defended the title, won the title, or retained the title. Cuts a promo talking about how he's beaten everybody and all of this other stuff. And, of course, Brock Lesnar's music hits. And he comes out standing face to face, and we already have our SummerSlam main event in place, which is going to be Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal title in a last man standing match. And I've had a couple of days to kind of mull over this, think over it. My initial reaction was, as soon as Brock's music hit, my eyes rolled, and I was not looking forward to this. And after a couple of days of thinking on it, I think I'm still in the same boat, because this story was wrapped up at WrestleMania this past year. We don't need to reopen it for anything. This is a story that they've been telling since Rumble 2015. Really, that's kind of where it started with Roman winning the Rumble, and then obviously going on to WrestleMania 31, that main event against Brock. We've been telling this story since then, and it really felt like it concluded at WrestleMania. And I understand there are injuries and there are a lot of other circumstances, but this kind of sheds the light on the bigger issue inside of WWE right now, and that's the fact that they don't have that many big stars. Like, they don't have that many Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns level stars, because they refuse to build up people to that point. I think the only other person that is sort of on that level on the male side of things is Seth Rollins. Like Seth Rollins, to me, should have had this Brock Lesnar spot. The main event of SummerSlam should be Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. If Randy's not available, which he isn't, that's the main event that makes the most sense to me. That's the main event that I feel like would sell more tickets, not more tickets, but you would pay more to your hardcore WWE fans by having Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns instead of having Brock versus Roman for the thousandth time. I understand it's a last man standing match. The stipulation doesn't add anything to me, to this match for me, because we've seen it. We've seen all of these before. We've seen these guys go at it time and time and time again. You could have revisited this a year, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, and I think it's fine. But to do it 6 months after WrestleMania, after you concluded the story, is just baffling to me. I don't understand why we went back. This to me was kind of a way of Vince saying, I'm still in charge and booking things. And of course, I'm going to do Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns as my main event for SummerSlam. So I don't. I'm not going to go into SummerSlam heavy-hearted over this whole match. I think SummerSlam still has a chance to be really good. I don't feel like Roman versus Brock is the SummerSlam match that we need to have. Like I said, Roman versus Seth, even Roman versus AJ Styles, I think is really compelling and really interesting, and something that we haven't explored since Roman won the title in 2016. Like we haven't really explored Roman versus AJ that much. And so I think that would be a great direction to go now. AJ needs to have a good feud after they mishandled the whole Edge feud. I feel like he definitely needs to move on. I mean, he hasn't even done anything after Finn Balor joined Judgment Day, and Finn and AJ were best friends or friends heading into that Raw, and then all of a sudden Finn joins and AJ just doesn't care. That they haven't really done a whole lot with AJ right now, and so I feel like you could do AJ versus Roman. That's really compelling, really interesting. Seth versus Roman, like I said, that's something that's different. Um, I just don't feel like you had to resort back to Brock Lesnar. Now, if you want to have Brock on the card, I fully understand, but find something different for Brock Lesnar to do. I know a big match would be Brock versus Riddle. You could run back Brock versus Bobby Lashley. And I don't think this match necessarily may stay the same. I think this may turn into a triple threat or a fatal four-way, with maybe Drew joining the fold to really set up that at the Clash at the Castle. Possibly Bobby Lashley, depending on what he does at Money in the Bank with the U.S. title. There's a lot of uncertainty up in the air about this. So I hope that this isn't the end-all, be-all main event, because this is going to be a disappointing main event for SummerSlam. Doing it right after WrestleMania, I think this is going to be a really disappointing end to SummerSlam if this is the full main event that we get. Now, with that being said, as well, I know I've been talking about Seth a lot in this episode. I feel like Seth deserves his just desserts. He deserves the praise that we are giving him right now because of how much great stuff he has been doing each and every week. It's his show now that Cody is out with the injury. Seth Rollins is the guy that is going to keep people tuning in to Monday Night Raw each and every week. And so the fact that he is not going to be in the main event as of right now in this match against Roman Reigns at SummerSlam gives me really good hope that he will win Money in the Bank in 2 weeks. Like I really hope Seth walks away with the Money in the Bank briefcase, because I don't see anyone else walking away with that briefcase and it fitting the narrative or making sense. I mean, with Seth holding the briefcase, the story kind of writes itself in the fact that Seth wins the Money in the Bank briefcase this year at Money in the Bank. Roman Reigns continues to be a dominant champion heading into WrestleMania. Let's say The Rock is not going to be at WrestleMania this year. Cody Rhodes shows up at the Royal Rumble. Cody wins the Rumble. WrestleMania main event, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes finally dethrones Roman Reigns to win the undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins' music hits, and he cashes in again at WrestleMania to end the dream of Cody Rhodes before it even began. And then you can tell that story again of now Seth really has the upper hand on Cody. Like I love that idea of Seth really spoiling it for Cody. And I don't think Seth has to drop the title right away. I think you can kind of have Seth and Cody fight at Backlash. Maybe someone gets involved there. We do a different feud for Cody, kind of heading this way, and then at SummerSlam the next year, the following year, we have Cody versus Seth for the title, where Cody finally gets the title, wins the title, and holds it for a long, long time. So I feel like that's a great direction to go in. At this point in time, I don't think anybody else on the men's side really does anything else with the briefcase other than Seth Rollins. I think Seth Rollins needs the briefcase, and I think the briefcase really needs Seth because it's not had a very good run the last couple of years. And so I feel like if Seth has it, it's going to be a great job, a great opportunity for him to do something with it. Obviously, the first time he had it, historical cash in, my favorite cash in of all time. So I think he could do something like that all over again. As we kind of talk about Money in the Bank, we also had some breaking news that took place on Monday Night Raw, some sad news as well. The fact that Rhea Ripley is no longer going to be a part of Money in the Bank. She was the number one contender for Bianca Belair's Raw Women's Championship. She is now out of Money in the Bank. She is not medically cleared. I haven't heard any other reports confirming what the case is. I just hope that she gets healthy. That's the only thing that we can really do or worry about is hope that she gets healthy and pretty quickly in time. If we get Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair at SummerSlam for the Raw Women's Championship, that's a great match that I'm looking forward to. Obviously, being there in person in Nashville, I think that's a great way to go with that as well. And who knows? Maybe Rhea walks out champion at SummerSlam if that's the case. We had a fatal four-way, I believe it was. A fatal five-way to determine the new number one contender for the Raw Women's Championship. It was Asuka versus Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan versus Alexa Bliss versus Carmella, with the winner moving on to face Bianca Belair at Money in the Bank. Going into the fatal five-way, I thought there was a good chance that maybe Liv would win it or maybe Becky would win it. But the more I got to thinking about it, Alexa, Liv, and Asuka are already – well, Asuka wasn't at the time, but Alexa and Liv are already confirmed to be in the women's Money in the Bank briefcase match or Money in the Bank match. So them being a part of this or them winning wouldn't really make any sense. So it came down to Asuka, Becky, and Carmella. And I figured Asuka and Becky would be involved in the Money in the Bank match itself. So Carmella was the only real optional choice. She ended up actually winning the match. We're getting Bianca Belair versus Carmella at Money in the Bank. It's not the feud we wanted. It's not the match we wanted. It'll be fine. Carmella can really hold her own. Bianca is on a different level right now as well. So I think that all of that's going to be fine. Just when you get the prospect of having Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, and then it's taken away. It's that part really, really sucks. And you got to think about it this way: the two women's matches that we are going to get, or the two women's title matches that we are going to get at Money in the Bank, aren't the biggest. We have Natalya versus Ronda Rousey, which the story there, makes sense. With them being best friends, I think Natalya trained Ronda Rousey and all that stuff, and now they've turned it into a armbar versus sharpshooter, which the whole story with Ronda Rousey, any story Ronda does is not going to make a whole lot of sense because she can't cut a promo to save her life. But, it'll be fine. And then with Carmella and Bianca Belair, obviously there's nothing else they could really do since we're this close to Money in the Bank. There's no really story that you can kind of tell really quickly. So I think Carmella is a good replacement for Rhea Ripley, since a lot of other women are going to be involved in that Money in the Bank ladder match. Speaking of Becky, let's talk about Becky because she has been on a really weird losing streak since losing the title at WrestleMania to Bianca Belair, which I love. Like I love this story that they're telling with Becky about her kind of facing adversity, facing difficulty of trying to climb back to the top. Obviously, she didn't lose for like 2 years. Now she finally has lost, and it seems like once she lost to Bianca, it's like a ripple effect that she can't buy a win, she can't pick up a win. So I really like the story. I love the character direction that Becky is going in. I love the character direction she is taking she's taking the character right now. It's going a great way. It's really interesting and compelling to see that. I don't know what's going to come. I don't know what the end game is because I don't think Becky's going to win the Money in the Bank. She's not even in it right now. I think she gets in it probably this Monday. I think she'll find a way in to weasel her way into that match. Um, but I don't know. I don't know what's in store for Becky from here. I don't think she's going to go after the title. I don't think she's going to win the title. I think maybe at WrestleMania next year we could be heading to Becky versus Ronda, but I don't know how we're going to get to that point. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the direction is with Becky. I just love the fact that she is slowly going crazier and crazier and madder and madder and madder. And I love that direction that they are taking the character with Becky. And speaking of characters, we got to talk about Elias and Ezekiel and the whole Kevin Owens segment. I loved it. It was as stupid as it could be, and it was everything that I wanted it to be and more. Obviously, Ezekiel came out with the fakest beard I've ever seen to really portray Elias. Kevin Owens deserves the world. He is making this story that shouldn't work at all. He is making this story work each and every week. And Ezekiel is too. Don't get me wrong. Both of them working together, they have really good chemistry, which is not something I was expecting to say or think about. But they have really good chemistry together. Um, it was so funny. Obviously, is Elias bashing the guitar over Ezekiel's head. Obviously, I think they were pre-recorded some of the Ezekiel or the Elias segments backstage with Ezekiel. I think those were pre-recorded or, obviously spliced together, whatever. But it was so fun. That's such a fun story that they're telling right now. I think we're coming to the end on it. I hope so because I hope we kind of move on to do bigger and better things with Kevin. But as of right now, it's what they're doing is fantastic stuff with that. Um, and yeah, there's not a whole lot other to talk about. Obviously, the one thing that we can talk about, one thing that I'm going to bring up and talk about, and not go into too much detail because there's still a lot up in the air that we don't know about. There's still a lot of information that we don't know about. Obviously, you can't really talk about WWE these days without talking about the controversy around Vince McMahon. We went into depth about it last week. Kind of gave our initial thoughts on a lot of things. Obviously, as soon as the podcast went up, the next day we woke up to the news that he is out as CEO. He has stepped down. Stephanie McMahon has taken his place. Basically, speculation at this point, but with Stephanie coming in, which I think Stephanie could definitely be the CEO of WWE. I'm not saying she couldn't. I think she would be a great choice to be the CEO, to be the full-time CEO. She's just stepping in right now until they find a replacement. But with Stephanie being in charge, I think it's very easy to say that Stephanie's in charge, but Vince is still in charge. Like all the decisions are going to be made through Vince. He's still fully in control of creative, which we have seen that with Brock and Roman being set up at SummerSlam. And he cut 2 promos this week, which of course he did because he's Vince McMahon. He showed up Friday after stepping down. He showed up on SmackDown. He opened the show. He kicked off the show. Simply just talking about how the tagline is then, now, forever, together, and the together part, which I'm not in this with you, Vince. This is all on you by yourself. But him just kind of, he just said that and then dropped the mic. Said welcome to SmackDown, dropped the mic and walked away. So it was a pointless promo. It was a very, very power trip heavy moment. You could tell Vince was trying to show everybody he's not going anywhere anytime soon. It was definitely a power play. And I think he did it again on Monday. He just simply came out to talk about how John Cena is returning next week, which we have known now for 2 weeks. And so him just kind of literally just coming out basically in multiple words, but he just said, John Cena is coming back next week. Tune in, and dropped the mic and nearly fell out of the ring and finally jumped off the last step. And just a power trip is all it is. It's a massive power play to let everybody know that he is not going anywhere anytime soon. He is going to stay in charge, in control of creative. We've already started to see John Laurinaitis falling. The fall of John Laurinaitis. He is. I don't believe he's been fired. I don't believe he's stepped away. I just think for right now, for the time being, he is no longer being a part of talent relations. I'd see that being a permanent move. I see him probably being released or walking away from the company in the next couple weeks, maybe months. Um, and I think that's going to be. I think that's the most punishment anybody's going to get is that. I don't think Vince is going to get any other further punishments. I think John Laurinaitis is going to walk away, and then they're going to try to make us forget about it. And I don't think that's going to happen. Obviously, this is a controversy that has stained Vince McMahon's legacy. Obviously, and I think it's going to continue to stain it the more he tries to do stuff like this. So I hope he stays in the back. I hope he stays where he's at. I know there have been a lot of reports from Fightful talking about how the talent in the back were not happy about what he did Friday. I'm sure there was some other reports about him not being happy about what he did on Monday as well. So I don't know. I feel like he's getting in his own way right now, and he needs to just take a step back. Full transparency, I think he needs to walk away for a while, including creative. But he the type of person he is, the type of man he is not going to do that at all. Um, so we'll just have to see where it goes. Obviously, as more stories come out, as more developments come out, we will keep you updated on the podcast. We will keep talking about it. We will keep bringing it up and giving our opinions and our thoughts and about what's going on and what is taking place there. But if you're just now tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Andy York. You can follow me at Andy_PBWP. This is a podcast that is for the fans, by the fans. We really appreciate you tuning in and listening to us each and every week. I plugged it at the top. I'm going to keep plugging it because we are having so much fun doing it. Make sure you go check out our PBWF series. It's our new series that we have launched here at the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, where myself and Chris have taken our two rosters that we have drafted. Go watch the draft special. We have drafted and we have started our storylines. We have started booking our weeks. We're heading to our first pay-per-view, which is going to be in about 3 weeks. Excuse me. It's going to be in about 3 weeks. So you want to be look out for that. You want to be checking out for that. A new episode drops this week. My tournament is continuing. The men's and women's tournament is continuing, as well as the tag team matches. The triple threat tag team matches are taking place as we are heading to our first pay-per-view Conquest of Champions. So you definitely want to check that out. And you want to check out what Chris is doing. He's doing a lot of great stuff with Cardona and with Roman. And with the Undisputed Era and Bullet Club and a lot of other stuff like that. So you definitely want to go over there and check that out. And speaking of Bullet Club, let's talk about AEW Forbidden Door. We're going to be talking about what took place on Dynamite this week as we are kind of going through previewing this card, because full transparency, before this last episode of AEW Dynamite, I was looking forward to this pay-per-view, but my excitement wasn't at the level that I thought it was going to be when it was first announced. I think part of it is because I feel like this pay-per-view is probably 2 or 3 years too late. New Japan isn't on the same level as it once was. No, not disrespecting them at all, but since a lot of AEW guys left, there's been a lot of backstage heat between New Japan and AEW because of this. Since a lot of those guys left and started in AEW and joined AEW, New Japan has kind of fallen off a little bit. And so, I think if this would happen 3 years ago, I think this would have completely blown everybody away. I still think this will blow a lot of people away, especially those that aren't familiar with a lot of these guys from Japan. You're going to realize that they do have some of the best wrestlers in the world there, and you're going to see it in a lot of these matches. So we're going to run through this card, talking about what happened on Dynamite. And then I'm going to kind of preview. I'm going to give my predictions and my thoughts as well. And we will go from there. So we're going to start with, obviously, we have to start with the match that was announced last night. We finally know what the IWGP Heavyweight Championship match is going to be. Last night on Dynamite, Adam Hangman Page fought Silas Young, which Silas showing up was huge. I love that he showed up. I love that he made his debut last night and he got to wrestle Page. After the match was over, after Page won, Adam Cole came out and Jay White came out to talk about how, Jay White was basically saying that Adam Cole was not going to be the one challenging him. He walked down to the ring and said, "You know what? Who else isn't? You aren't either." And Page kind of jumped White. They started fighting. Adam Cole got involved. And then the freaking coin dropped, and Okada walked out on that stage, and the pop that this man got in American soil was huge. I mean, absolutely massive. The pop that Kazuchika Okada got. I freaked out over it. He ran down. He made the save with Page, but they did stare out. Like they didn't interact. They didn't fight, but they did have a stare down. And then it was announced last night that the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match at Forbidden Door will be Jay White defending the title against Adam Cole, Adam Hangman Page, and Okada. And I am going to tell you now, this is going to be really hard to beat. I know more than likely Jon Moxley versus Tanahashi is going to be the main event. I would put this as my main event to end the show. I think this is going to be almost impossible to beat, especially the fact that Okada is wrestling now in Chicago, in America, on AEW TV, on AEW pay-per-view. It is a huge deal that this is happening. I am so excited for this match. I don't think Jay White's going to lose the title. I think Jay White is going to win here because he just started his reign as IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, beating Okada at Dominion, which if you haven't seen that match is amazing as well. You want to go check that out. I don't think Jay White, though, is going to lose. I love what Jay White is doing right now in Japan and kind of everywhere he's shown up. I love what he's doing. He is on a roll right now, cutting amazing promos, putting on great matches. I don't think he's going to lose the title. I think Adam Cole more than likely might eat the pin in this match. It's either going to be Cole or Page. Eat the pin in this match. I am so excited for this though. This is something that the prospect of Forbidden Door to get a match like this is what makes Forbidden Door so exciting. The fact that we get to see a fatal four-way for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Off the top of my head, I don't think it's ever happened before. It might have, but it's very rare that this title is defended in a multi-man match. So the fact that it's happening in Chicago with these four men, four of the best in the world, it's going to be absolutely amazing to see that. Seeing Okada on TV was amazing, but seeing him on pay-per-view and wrestling, it's going to be something special. That if you didn't have any excitement to watch this pay-per-view, this is your excitement. This is the reason why you tune in to watch Forbidden Door. From the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match, let's move on to the interim AEW Championship match as John Moxley will be taking on Tanahashi. This is going to be very interesting as well. Obviously, this is a match that everybody's been wanting to see for a long time that the stars really haven't aligned for this to happen. When Moxley was feuding with all of Japan for a while last year, this is one of the matches that we wanted to see was Moxley versus Tanahashi. It never happened. It's finally happening for the AEW Championship. My gut tells me that Jon Moxley more than likely will win. I think that's the easiest solution is have Jon Moxley win, have him be on TV as champ. And then as soon as Punk comes back, now you have that story between Punk and Moxley that you can go forward and tell. But, it would be really interesting if Tanahashi won the title and took it back to Japan and defended it in New Japan. That would be really interesting to see that happen. I don't know if it would happen. I don't know if it will ever happen. But that would be such a compelling way to go, an interesting way to go. Tanahashi winning the AEW Championship, going to Japan and defending it against guys like maybe Okada, maybe Naito, maybe Suzuki or Ishii or Tama Tonga, like somebody like that. Like that would be fantastic to see that taking place in Japan. Obviously, it would make AEW fans like myself tune in to watch Japan more and more. So I don't think I think it would be the same thing as Impact having their championship on Kenny Omega and having people tune into Impact more. I think it would have the same effect. But I don't know if it's going to happen. As of right now, my gut is telling me Jon Moxley is going to walk away with the title. But I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked if Tanahashi doesn't pick up the win and move the title to Japan. And then whenever Punk comes back, we get Punk versus Tanahashi. Maybe at All Out, maybe at Revolution or Fight for the Fallen, or Full Gear or something like that. But I don't be shocked if that happens. Do not be shocked if that happens at all. Also last night, on Dynamite. We heard that Bryan Danielson is not going to be able to compete at both Forbidden Door and Blood and Guts. He is dealing with some injuries right now, which um, really sucks because Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson is a dream match of all dream matches. To see those two technical guys wrestle and work together, um, two of the best wrestlers in the world, two of the best technicians in the world, two of the best technicians of all time locking up. Seeing those two guys would be amazing. But if we can't get that, Bryan Danielson did tease that a mystery opponent. He has handpicked somebody to take his place. The newest member of the Blackpool Combat Club will be showing up at Forbidden Door to take on Zack Sabre Jr. and will also be taking his place in Blood and Guts. And there are two people that pop into my mind when I think of who could be this person to take Bryan Danielson's place. Who could take Bryan Danielson's place to join Blackpool Combat Club, to take on Zack Sabre Jr., and also be a part of the Blood and Guts match. I'll give you the one that's least likely, in my opinion. Excuse me, the one that I don't believe is going to happen, the one that I don't think is going to happen. I don't think it's going to be Johnny Gargano. I know he's going to be in Chicago on Sunday, and I know he's said that he's not going to be there. And he said, I know me saying I'm not going to be there makes you think I'm going to be there even more. I don't think he's going to be there, though. I don't think it's going to be Johnny Gargano versus Zack Sabre Jr. If it is, that's a great match as well. I think that's a great replacement for Bryan Danielson. But the person that I think it has to be Cesaro. I think it has to be Cesaro in this case. Him being a part of Blackpool Combat Club is so interesting for multiple reasons. Obviously, him versus Zack Sabre Jr. Claudio is a perfect choice for this. And I think that it would be a dream match in and of itself is seeing those two guys. But him being a part of Blackpool Combat Club and especially him being a part of Blood and Guts is super interesting because Claudio and Eddie Kingston have this history of hating each other. A huge rivalry pre WWE before Cesaro went there. They did not get along. They despised each other to the point where when Cesaro left, Eddie Kingston said he's not going to come to AEW because he's afraid to see me. So seeing those two guys on the same team in Blood and Guts, probably duking it out in the match itself, is something that I would love to see. I think that's a great feud to go for Claudio right away as Eddie Kingston. I think Bryan Danielson can come back and they can all kind of be a group together. That would be really compelling, really interesting. But I think those are the two options for this spot is Johnny Gargano, who I don't think is going to be the one. Maybe Jonathan Gresham. I think Jonathan Gresham is a good shout as well. I think he could show up and take this spot. But I think it has to be Cesaro. I think it has to be him coming in, taking this match, beating Zack Sabre Jr., moving on to Blood and Guts, maybe turning, and then right away you have Jon Moxley versus Cesaro for the AEW title if Moxley wins it. That's something that's amazing. Maybe he wins that. Excuse me. Maybe he wins that title, and then we have Punk versus Cesaro at some point down the line. That's super compelling as well. Super interesting. So this is the one that I believe will be the match of the night. I think no matter who it is, I think this will be the match of the night. I think it'll be the best match of the night. Maybe the Fatal 4-Way, maybe the Ospreay match, but I really think this will be the best match of the night is Zack Sabre Jr. versus whoever Bryan Danielson has picked to take his place there. Let's move on to the new title that is being defended or being won at Forbidden Door, the AEW All Atlantic title. A pretty decisive title in a lot of ways. Probably a title that does not need to be there, depending on how it's used. I brought up last week or whenever it was announced that this title was going to be involved or that this new title was showing up. I would love it if this was a title that was defended in other promotions against other people, kind of like what Cody did with the TNT championship when he won it the first time, of having different people come in, going to different places and winning it. Obviously, we know who the four men in this match are going to be. It's going to be Pac versus Miro versus Malachi Black versus Ishii. And I think Ishii has a good chance of winning this and taking it to Japan. I think one of the two titles is going back to Japan. I think it's either going to be the AEW championship with Tanahashi or the All Atlantic Championship with Ishii. Um, I think this could be a title that Malachi Black could win. I think it's a title that Miro could win. I could see Pac winning this. This is what's so fun about this is I could see all four guys winning because someone like Pac showing up in different promotions would be a huge deal. Someone like Malachi Black showing up, he's already kind of done it in different promotions, would be massive. Someone like Miro maybe showing up in different promotions or different people coming in, I think that would be super interesting as well. So this is one that is kind of a coin toss. If I had to make a prediction right now, which I'm going to run back through these at the end and make my predictions for them, um, I'm really leaning towards Malachi Black or Ishii. I think those are the top two guys right now that could walk away with the All Atlantic Championship, and then hopefully they rename it to just the International Championship or something because that's kind of a stupid name for the title. And then let's move on to another championship match. We're going to talk about all the championship matches kind of up front. I know Zack Sabre Jr. wasn't a championship match, but in my mind it should be because it's the champion of who's the best wrestler in the world right now. But we're going to have the winner take all FTR, which is the current Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships versus Jeff Cobb and the Great O'Khan, which is the current IWGP Tag Team Champions versus Roppongi Vice. This match could potentially steal the show as well. Three really great tag teams. Obviously, FTR is on a different level than everybody else. I think FTR is the best tag. I think FTR is the best tag team in the world right now. I think FTR might be the best tag team of all time. They are up there for me for sure. I don't know who's going to walk away with this. This is one of the two. I think it's either going to be Cobb and Khan or FTR. I'll give my predictions, like I said, at the end. This match is going to be fantastic. Dax Hardwood is my 2022 right now wrestler of the year. I think he might be the best wrestler right now, most consistent wrestler. He has done some amazing stuff as a singles competitor, and he's even better in tag team action. So I am excited to see what they are going to do together in this match. Let's talk about the last title match that we know as of right now on the card, which is the AEW Women's Championship. Thunder Rosa defending the title against Toni Storm. This is the one that I think could really turn some heads. I think this is the one that could really be surprising to a lot of people, the outcome of it. Thunder Rosa has had a mediocre title run, to be completely honest. And I don't think it's really been her fault. She hasn't been booked in the best of situations. Obviously, I don't think she has helped herself in some ways and in some capacities. But I don't. This is the one that's kind of turned heads because Thunder Rosa has kind of cooled off with fans, I believe, and Toni Storm hasn't. Toni Storm has picked up. She is one of the most popular, if not the most popular, female wrestlers in AEW right now. So I think this match could be really potential for turning some heads and starting something fresh and something new with the women's division. We have Will Ospreay taking on Orange Cassidy. This is the one matchup that I am kind of scratching my head about because I no disrespect to Orange Cassidy. I love Orange Cassidy, but I think there's some other guys that we could have Will Ospreay take on instead of Orange Cassidy. Obviously, Bryan Danielson was one of the first ones that came to mind, but since he's out with injury, Darby Allin I think would be a really interesting one that you could have them two kind of go at it together. I think you could have Sammy if you wanted to, but that's kind of too close together. I think Ospreay versus Jericho would have been really interesting. A really two different styles of wrestling coming together. I think that would have been really, really cool. But I still think this match is going to be great. I mean, Orange Cassidy is a really underrated wrestler. He's really good in the ring. I'm not a big Will Ospreay fan. I have made that mention multiple times on this podcast, but he has really impressed me. He's no longer just a flippy wrestler. He still does some flippy stuff, but it's impressive when he does it. So you can't really hate it that much. But he's really gotten better in the ring. Not that he was bad ever, but he's improved a lot in the ring in multiple different areas to where now he's not just a flippy wrestler. He's doing a lot of power moves and things like that. So I think this will be really interesting. It's two completely different personalities coming together, which I really enjoy when that happens. So I think that could be a potential for something special with that. But this is probably the one that I'm scratching my head the most about for the matchup that we got between AEW and New Japan. Um, and then two final matches that we're going to talk about, and then I'll run through the card and give my predictions. We have Eddie Kingston, Umino, I believe. If I mispronounced that, I'm very sorry. And Yuta versus Jericho Suzuki and Sammy Guevara. Obviously, Sammy Guevara joining the Jericho Appreciation Society last week, being a part of it. I love the way Dynamite went off the air with a massive brawl on the outside between multiple people and multiple feuds at once. And then you have Tanahashi and Moxley staying in the ring, staring a hole through each other. Um, yeah, it's going to be a great match. I think it's going to be the AEW car crash match, is either this one or the next one we're going to talk about. Because Eddie Kingston is a madman, Yuta is a madman. Suzuki is going to be stiff in this match. Seeing Eddie Kingston and Suzuki in the same ring going at it is something that I did not know I wanted to see until I saw the lineup, and now I'm super excited to see that. Yuta versus Sammy Guevara is something that I think is going to be really special as well. So I think this match is going to be really fun. I think it's going to be a car crash, but it's going to be super entertaining at the end of the day. And then the last match we're going to talk about is Dudes with Attitudes, which the name is whatever. But it's Dudes with Attitudes, which is Darby Allin, Sting, Takahashi, and Takagi, taking on Bullet Club, which is El Fantasmo and Hikuleo, if I mispronounced that, I'm sorry as well, and the Young Bucks finally joining Bullet Club one more time. Um, this is just going to be a car crash match as well. The Young Bucks being a part of Bullet Club is super interesting to me. I'm very excited to see what they're going to do, especially with their entrance. I'm really excited to see what they're going to pull out with that. Um, and these tag teams together are going to be great. I mean, Darby Allin, Sting, Takahashi, and Takagi is a really interesting team to me. I think this is going to be something that's going to be super special to see that as well. 8 guys that are just going to tear into each other. It's going to be a car crash. It's going to be a barn burner. I hope there are no tags. Just let them all 8 in the ring at the same time and just go to war. I think it's going to be one of those type of matches that we get with that. So I'm going to run through the card, give my predictions as we kind of wrap up this episode. I appreciate you joining me as I run solo for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Kind of a different style, different take on how we've done the podcast before, but let us know if you enjoyed how we did it and how you liked it, and if you're excited for Forbidden Door. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna be covering next week at some point. I'm not sure the day yet. I don't know if it's going to be Sunday night or if it's going to be Monday morning or whatever the case is. I'm not sure yet, but we are definitely going to be reviewing this show at some point next week. So let's run through the card, and I'll give my final predictions, as we put a bow on this week's episode. With Dudes with Attitudes, like I said, Darby Allin, Sting, Takashi, and Takagi versus Bullet Club. I think Bullet Club walks away with the win here. I think, especially since the Young Bucks have joined, I think they will walk away kind of maybe their swan song, or maybe they join at some point down the line. I think that would be really interesting as well. But I think Bullet Club picks up the win here. With the team of Kingston, Umino, and Yuta versus Jericho, Suzuki, and Sammy Guevara, I think the Jericho Appreciation Society with Suzuki, I think they're going to pick up the win. Probably because of Suzuki, I think they're going to pick up the win. Probably pin Kingston to give them momentum to head into Blood and Guts. I think that would be a really interesting way to go for that. So I think that's the direction that we're going to take it. Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy. I think Will Ospreay is definitely going to pick up the win here. I think it's going to be an impressive showing for Orange Cassidy, but I don't think it's going to have enough. I think Ospreay walks away the winner here. With the AEW Women's Championship match, this is the one that I may be in the minority here, but if I am, I'm fine with that. I think Toni Storm is going to walk away as the new AEW Women's Champion. I think she is going to beat Thunder Rosa. I think she is going to walk out with the title. And I think we may start to see a new side of Thunder Rosa after this. She may turn heel. And during the chase for the title, she may turn heel as well. But I don't really know where they're going to go with it from there. But I have a gut feeling that Toni Storm is going to walk away with the AEW Women's Championship. In the winner-take-all tag team match between FTR, Jeff Cobb, and Great Khan versus Roppongi Vice, I think FTR has to walk away with the win here. I think FTR has to walk away with the IWGP Tag Team Championships and the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. To see FTR in Japan facing some of the teams they have there, that would be really cool. I think that's really interesting to see that. Obviously, with them being a part of Ring of Honor and New Japan, I think that's great. I think we're heading to a FTR versus Young Bucks match at All Out. So maybe have both sets of titles on FTR, have the Young Bucks have the AEW title, and then we have another winner take all at All Out. And if the Young Bucks win, they're back in Japan in Ring of Honor, and now in AEW, kind of their three territories where they made their name. I think that would be really interesting to see that. The AEW All Atlantic Championship between Pac, Miro, Malachi Black, and Ishii. I think Ishii is going to walk away with the win here. I think he's going to take the the All Atlantic Championship, defend it all across the world. I think that's more than likely the way that they're going to go with that match. Zack Sabre Jr. versus the mystery opponent. I'm going to give two predictions here: the mystery opponent and who wins. I think it's going to be Zack Sabre Jr. versus Cesaro, Claudio, whatever he's going to call himself in AEW. And I think he picks up the win over Zack Sabre Jr. to really establish himself in AEW as a new member, but also as a mainstay and a main player in the division. And then the interim AEW championship match, Jon Moxley versus Tanahashi. This is a coin flip for me, but I really think at the end of the day, Jon Moxley is going to walk away as the AEW champion. I think the story itself writes itself with Punk versus Moxley, maybe at All Out, if Punk can get healthy enough in time for that, maybe at some point down the line just after that. Excuse me, but I think Jon Moxley is going to walk away as your first ever two-time AEW champion. And then I don't know if it's going to be the main event. It's my main event. The IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match. Jay White defending his title against Adam Cole, Hangman Page, and Okada. I think this is going to be the match of the night. I think this is going to steal the show. I'm excited to see what Okada is going to do. I'm excited to see what a healthy Adam Cole is going to do. I'm excited to see a new version of Adam Hangman Page without the title at a pay-per-view. I think that's going to be really interesting and compelling as well. And I'm super excited to see what Jay White's going to do after he wins, because I think Jay White's going to walk away still the champion, maybe heading into another feud with Okada or another match with Okada at some point down the line. But I think Jay White is going to walk away as your IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. And before I sign off and move on, I would be a dummy if I didn't talk about this from AEW last night as well. Heel Christian, this is for Chris because he couldn't be here with me today. Heel Christian is amazing, and the promo he cut was fantastic. And it's what we have been missing with Christian and what we have been wanting for Christian. I know some people, and probably Chris included, thought that they took too long to get to this point. I think they waited till the perfect time. I think now is the perfect time to do it, and they pulled the trigger on it. They did it, and I'm excited to see what Christian is going to do as a huge heel in AEW. I love the T-shirt that he debuted last night, or that was on AEW Shop last night. His first T-shirt ever in AEW was "Outwork Everyone." His T-shirt now says "Worked Everyone," and I love what he is doing with that. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Christian. He is finally interesting, finally compelling, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with him in AEW for that as well. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week's episode. I really appreciate everybody tuning in and listening and being a part. I know me talking by myself for just under an hour was probably not the most exciting thing in the world, but I hope you really enjoyed it. And if you disagree with anything I said, please tweet me. Let me know what you think about some of the things I said at Andy_PBWP. I'm excited. I love talking about wrestling. I love having different opinions and talking about different opinions. That's why me and Chris are such good friends, is we have two different styles of wrestling that we enjoy, and two different things two different ideas of wrestling that we enjoy. And I love that we get to talk about this on the podcast. I want to talk to you about it as well. So if you disagree with anything I said or want to talk more about anything I said, definitely tweet me at Andy_PBWP. Comment down below. I'll definitely jump on and talk to you there as well. But make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, all of that fun stuff. We'll probably talk about it next week as well on the podcast, but we had the privilege of going to CCW in Nashville this past weekend. TSF, our boy, is walking away with a huge win there. Yeah, we'll wait till you see it. It's a lot of fun. Doc Gallo showing up and showing how massive and powerful he is. That was a lot of fun there. Chris got to do ring announcing, which was fun to see him. We tried to mess with him the whole time, and he handled it like a professional the whole time. So kudos to him and to Tyler forward doing that as well. But yeah, like I said, thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to us each and every week. For Chris, who couldn't be here, my name's Andy York. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.